Bienvenidos, everyone. We are so glad that you are with us for this very special edition of Live with CXPA, where we're going to be talking about the present and future of CX in Latin America, including the formation of the CXPA Latin America Network. So we have an amazing lineup of CX leaders who will be joining us today from across Latin America. I can't wait to bring them in and hear directly from them about some of the really exciting developments that are happening all across the region. And if you're a Spanish speaker who is tuning in, you'll be happy to know that the majority of our broadcast today is going to be in Spanish. So stay tuned on that. So I'd like to get started and welcome our first guest today to give some introductory remarks, our first two guests, and that is Mr. Greg Melia, CAE, CEO of the CXPA, and Mr. Enrique Saenz. Enrique is the founder of CEO of Percepciones Centro America, a provider of CX technology tools and program development services. Enrique is the person who brought the idea forward to CXPA of a Latin America network. So welcome to you both, gentlemen. Greg, let's start with you. I know that we're really seeing a tremendous amount of interest and excitement in CX, as well as the CCXP credential across the globe. So what's interesting to you from your perspective about Latin America, and why is now the right time to really focus on this area and bring this community together?
Yeah, so first of all, Enrique, thank you. We made it. There's been so many conversations we've had about trying to find a way to make sure that CXPA brings the global community to South America, Latin America, Mexico, Caribbean, and to do that in a way that is forward-thinking and sustainable. And you have done a great job. I can't wait to bring the rest of the folks in and to introduce people to the team that you've assembled. But first of all, Gabe, to your question, CXPA wants to make sure that customer experience reaches every corner of the globe and is accessible to every individual throughout the world. And when we look at it, just thinking about the individuals who live in Latin America and the Caribbean, they represent 1 in 12 individuals throughout the world's population. It is a place that we need to be. They represent 7% of the global domestic product. And the opportunity for growth is huge, both to connect them for their in-country growth and to make those connections to the services that they bring to enrich customer experience in the US and other parts of the globe as well.
Yeah, great thoughts, Greg. And Enrique, I want to get your perspective here. And I know we're going to bring on some other amazing folks as well. But before we bring on those guests, as you think about the future, what is your hope for the CX community in Latin America?
Yeah, thank you, Gabe. Well, even though we share very similar characteristics, such as the ones that maybe Greg mentioned already, but we are constantly doing our benchmarks with the same US and European world-leading companies. And Latin America has examples of great organizations that have implemented successful CX programs. And increasingly, we are seeing Latin American CX practitioners stand out from the rest. So we need to empower these professionals, and we also need to promote customer-centric advances in our region. We also need to get more companies, small, medium, and large, to implement strategies that will improve the customer experience for the customer, for the consumer, and add value and allow for that will allow for increasing prices and further advancing the progression of the economic value. So we have seen brave early adopters of CX theory and practice do a great job, but until now, but sometimes we have focused more on making a profit than on promoting the professional practice of CX. And I think CXPA will be the standard of CX certifications and will allow collaboration and growth to all and every professional interested in customer experience. This will be the real democratization of CX knowledge, I think. So we are we're very excited of what this can bring to the region, and we are eager to work with all of the CX professionals around the area.
Absolutely. And just taking a look, we've got folks who are tuning in from around the globe. We have Marisa, who is tuning in from Chile. We have Jessica, who is tuning in from the Dominican Republic. We have Ghana, we have Melbourne. Fantastic. I can see there's a ton of interest here. And I think we have a question, if I can understand the question correctly, regarding Portuguese. So stay tuned on that. We're going to have a broadcast where we're talking a little bit more about development specifically in Brazil. So mark your calendars for March 30th on that one, Ryan. So Greg, any thoughts, last thoughts before we turn it over to Enrique to introduce his panelists?
Yeah. So one thing that I just want to say to all of the folks that are watching and commenting, if you're interested in this conversation, we invite you to join us. Log on to cxpa.org and create an account. Find the local network that is closest to you, or drop me an email or drop Gabe an email and let us know if we can get a network started in your area. That's how this program came about and this network came about. Enrique, I'm so thankful for your leadership, and I'd love to turn it over to you and Gabe to introduce your team.
Thanks, Greg. All right, Enrique, if you want to go ahead, and I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce your team, and we'll go from there. If anybody has any questions as we go, please don't hesitate to comment. I know the team is excited to address as many of those questions as they can. So Enrique, stage is yours.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you. Well, I'm very excited. We're going to switch to Spanish now. Estoy muy emocionado de presentar al equipo porque hemos logrado conformar un equipo muy talentoso y, más importante, con muchas ganas de promover el Customer Experience en América Latina. Así que quisiera llamarlos uno a uno para que comiencen y nos digan un poquito sobre ellos, que cada uno se presente, nos cuente un poco sobre el interés que han tenido en CX y también en el CXPA. Y un poco cómo han visto que se ha ido desarrollando el Customer Experience en sus países. Así que primero quisiera llamar a Gianna.
Hola, Enrique, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, Gianna, ¿qué tal?
Todo bien, estoy muy feliz de estar aquí. Soy Gianna Risk y soy, si me permito decir, del hermoso país de República Dominicana, en el centro del Caribe. Tengo 10 años de experiencia en mercadeo y en Customer Experience. Soy una persona que me apasiona el servicio, los procesos y el servicio al cliente, que para mí es una cualidad que es súper clave para trabajar el Customer Experience. Y bueno, estoy muy feliz de ser parte de la asociación y de su red latinoamericana. Estoy muy emocionada de todo lo positivo que vamos a construir para la región y que construiremos juntos con todos los miembros. Y entiendo que la asociación y su enfoque a Latinoamérica nos brindará a nosotros los países latinoamericanos un enfoque de que nos podamos poner más ya en el Customer Experience, de que ya sea un foco estratégico en las empresas. Y bueno, en República Dominicana sucede lo mismo que a nivel latinoamericano. Muchas de las grandes corporaciones cuentan con sus posiciones o departamentos de experiencia del cliente, pero a nivel de las micro o medianas empresas todavía necesitan un poquito más de ayudas. Yo entiendo que a nivel del país, con el COVID, sufrimos una transformación digital que nos va a ayudar también a impulsar esta disciplina, enfocándonos ya en estos procesos de clientes que puedan mejorarlo ya enfocados con el cliente en el centro. Quiero compartir también que una estadística de un estudio que se realizó de tendencias de Customer Experience por una empresa argentina a inicios de este año nos cuenta que un 46.2% de todos los profesionales de Customer Experience en Latinoamérica solamente tienen de 1 a 5 años trabajando en la disciplina. Eso nos permite una gran oportunidad de crecimiento y también habla un poquito de que la disciplina se encuentra en ascenso, o sea que es una buena oportunidad. Y también quiero hablarles un poquito sobre la una de las competencias que promueve la CXPA para el Customer Experience y es el diseño de la experiencia y la mejora. Como muchos de los que están aquí ya saben, este es uno de los pilares principales por lo cual las empresas y los profesionales empiezan a trabajar el Customer Experience. Van levantando los mapas de clientes y mejorándolos. Y quiero simplemente compartirles unos tips de cómo pueden llevar mejor este proceso. Lo primero es auditar o levantar este Customer Journey o mapa del cliente actual. Entender primero cómo está la situación para a partir de ahí poder hacer todas las mejoras y poder conocer todos los puntos de dolor del cliente. Segundo, es un error que pueden cometer muchas personas, es basar las mejoras o este mapa inicial en los conocimientos propios del proceso, en lugar de preguntar a los clientes. Hay que entrevistarlos, hay que encuestarlos y conocer de primera mano cuáles son los sentimientos por los que estos pasan cuando van a utilizar alguno de nuestros canales o a adquirir algún servicio o producto. Y por último, hay que tener la capacidad de analizar las brechas en la experiencia para poder impulsar el diseño ya como una metodología de mejora continua de los procesos, como el design thinking. Y nada, como para cerrar, siempre mantenerse en constante revisión del proceso para garantizar las mejoras y con esto, junto con las otras competencias de manera integral, realmente pueden implementar un proyecto de Customer Experience exitoso. Y nada, eso era todo lo que tenía que decir, Enrique. Un placer y estoy a la orden de ser República Dominicana.
Excelente, muchas gracias, Gianna. Bueno, me hizo mucho sentido lo que dijo acerca de las emociones, porque creo que si algo nos caracteriza a los latinoamericanos es que somos muy emocionales, ¿no?
Sí.
Para todos nos saludamos de besito y nos abrazamos y nos gusta esa interacción humana muchísimo, ¿no? Y creo que somos expertos en eso. Gracias, Gianna.
De nada.
Ahora quisiera introducir a Sebastien Munar desde Perú, quien también es parte del equipo. Tenemos a Sebastien. Parece que no está funcionando su cámara.
Hola, Enrique, ¿qué tal?
Empezamos con Raúl. Ahí estás, Sebastien.
¿Qué tal, Enrique? ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo te va?
Bien, Enrique, un gusto estar acá contigo y con todo lo de la CXPA.
Buenísimo. Te escucho, está un poquito cortado, pero te escuchamos.
Perfecto. No, primero que nada, quería darles la bienvenida a toda Latinoamérica. Un gusto estar con todos ustedes. Es un placer estar ¿verdad? Con ustedes el día de hoy. Y mi nombre es Sebastien Munar, soy CCXP. Ya tengo más de 12 años en Customer Experience, retenciones y estrategia en varios mercados de LATAM. Y realmente es un honor hacer parte de este equipo fundador con Gianna, con Raúl, con Enrique. Y el día de hoy me gustaría entrar a detalle y contarles un poquito más sobre mi apreciación a lo largo de estos últimos años de lo que ha sido Customer Experience en nuestra región. Hace 4 años, y escasamente diría yo, uno en LATAM no escuchaba la palabra Customer Experience, experiencia de cliente, o algo muy raro. Muchas veces me preguntaban, oye, ¿qué es experiencia de cliente? Lo confundían con otras disciplinas. Y me da mucho gusto, 4 años después, saber que en LATAM hay un foco claramente establecido hacia el cliente. Como les decía, hace un tiempo muy pocas empresas aplicaban esta bonita disciplina y la verdad yo tuve la suerte de trabajar en una de las compañías que empezó siempre con el foco de CX. Y creo yo que ahorita estamos en un momento de democratización de lo que es experiencia de cliente. Ha permitido llegar no solamente a compañías grandes, sino a medianas y poco a poco llegar a pequeñas empresas. Sí, y justamente lo que trae la CXPA es eso, es traer una organización sin fines de lucro, llevar el conocimiento, experiencia, herramientas de talla mundial a toda nuestra región latinoamericana. Asimismo, me gustaría agregar y hacer hincapié sobre la competencia para mí favorita. Amo y soy realmente un apasionado de lo que es Economics, ¿sí? Entonces, la competencia métricas, mediciones y ROI, que yo llamo CX Economics, me gustaría contarles un modelito que yo mismo generé y que analicé un poco los mercados de LATAM. Yo veo en el mercado latinoamericano que hay empresas que yo llamo medidores. ¿Qué son estas empresas que son medidores? Son empresas que solamente se dedican a medir. Tienen información, la almacenan, pero no hacen nada, no la procesan y no aplican un modelo de retorno de la inversión. Luego está otro, como yo llamo los analizadores. Ya con información captada, vinculada, empiezan a generar cursos de información con NPS, con CES. Pero eso no es suficiente. Recién cuando las empresas llegan al tercer tipo de compañías que vivimos los analizadores, es donde esto se vuelve realmente interesante. De error, ¿sí? NPS red, empiezan ya a utilizar y a juntar la información y a generar modelos. La verdad que hay muy pocas compañías todavía, y es lo que estamos en el proceso de madurez de este CX Economics, y eso es lo bonito. Yo creo que la CXP va a acompañar mucho este proceso a nivel de generación de conocimiento. Y por último está la compañía que llamamos los holísticos. Estas compañías ya tienen no solamente un conocimiento sobre la inversión, sino también a nivel de todo el P&L, de todo lo que se le evita, y generan un impacto profundo en la experiencia del cliente acompañado de una estrategia de negocio. Recuerden, siempre CX es una disciplina de negocio y tiene que ser un win-win entre clientes y compañías. Espero verlos a todos en esta comunidad, espero estar mucho más cerca de ustedes y cualquier cosa nos pueden escribir sin ningún problema. Un fuerte abrazo desde Perú. Nos vemos.
Excelente, Sebastián. Creo que tienes mucha razón. Ahí también me hizo mucho sentido lo que mencionabas sobre lo rápido que ha crecido la disciplina de CX en Latinoamérica. Recuerdo los inicios de cuando empecé yo en esto en el 2009. Empezamos muy enfocados en el tema de la voz del cliente y en empezar a hacer encuestas digitales. Y creo que ha avanzado muchísimo en Latinoamérica. Han habido ciertas personas que se han interesado mucho y que han sido muy apasionados por la teoría y por la práctica. Así que ciertamente ha avanzado mucho y todavía tenemos mucho por avanzar en el CX en la región. Quisiera también introducir entonces a nuestro último miembro del equipo, a Raúl Rodriguez desde México, para que también nos cuente sobre él.
¿Qué tal? Muy buenas tardes a todos nuestros amigos. Bienvenidos al CXPA de Latinoamérica. Es un gusto poder participar en esta importante organización y ojalá que mucha gente se una. Les platico un poco de mí. Yo tengo poco más de 25 años de experiencia, casi todos ellos en la industria de tecnología de la información. Espero que no puedan deducir mi edad con eso. Pero bueno, hemos estado por ahí algún tiempo y de todos estos años, yo creo que unos 10 deben estar relacionados con la experiencia del cliente directamente, quizá los últimos 6, pero bueno, atrás también había algún tema que tenía relación con la parte de Customer Experience. Y bueno, estando yo actualmente en una empresa proveedora de software de Customer Experience, como no es comercial, no la voy a decir, yo me quiero enfocar en los temas de voz del cliente, de Customer Insights y del entendimiento. Es una parte importante y de las cosas que hemos visto en Latinoamérica, sobre todo en estos últimos años que me ha tocado estar más de lleno en estos temas de Customer Experience. Hemos visto que hay muchas organizaciones en América Latina, por supuesto, muchas ya lo comentó por ahí Enrique, muchas muy exitosas con sus programas de Customer Experience y programas integrales como tal que abarcan toda una estrategia que va desde la visión hasta la parte de, por supuesto, ejecución y medición. De las cosas que hemos visto es que muchas de las empresas en América Latina hablan de Customer Experience, pero realmente no lo hacen de la mejor manera y específicamente en los temas de retroalimentación. Por ahí hacen una encuesta o dos al año para medir temas de NPS, pero bueno, hay mucho más. La parte de retroalimentación es muy rica, tanto en la parte relacional, cuando quieres hablar de una marca, de tu experiencia como tal con una marca o una empresa, pero todos esos puntos transaccionales donde abarcas a lo mejor toda como por ejemplo la adquisición de un bien o de un servicio o de una tarjeta de crédito, qué sé yo, y pasando por todo lo que tiene que ver por las interacciones, todos esos puntos pueden medirse. De ahí también la importancia de lo que mencionaba Gianna del mapa de la jornada del cliente, para que puedas determinar en qué punto hace sentido medir, de qué manera lo puedes hacer, para que verdaderamente tengas una retroalimentación muy rica por parte de tu cliente que te permita ir a lo importante también de lo que tiene que ver con una estrategia de Customer Experience, que es la acción. Es verdaderamente tomar acciones para mejorar esas experiencias de tus clientes, para mejorar productos, procesos, puntos de interacción donde haya fricción. Y ahí es donde creo que la CXPA tiene cualquier cantidad de recursos y cualquier cantidad de conversaciones. Incluso precisamente ayer estaba buscando algo relacionado con los temas de retorno de la inversión en un programa de Customer Experience, o concretamente de un programa de voz del cliente. Y bueno, hay cualquier cantidad de información, de recursos, herramientas, y por supuesto lo más valioso, los comentarios de los propios miembros de la asociación. Entonces creo que ahí es poner todo esto, que efectivamente supongo será alguna de las preguntas de nuestros amigos. La idea es que mucha de esta información se vaya adaptando y traduciendo al español, y que podamos tener acceso a toda esta infinidad de recursos valiosísimos para poder utilizarlos y para poder implementarlos en cualquiera de las 6 competencias que abarca el CXPA, y que abarcan de manera muy completa e integral todo lo que tiene que ver con Customer Experience. Así que bienvenidos, ojalá que sigan acompañándonos. Aquí vamos a estar para ayudarlos y para hacer comunidad juntos. Entonces, bienvenidos. Muchas gracias, Enrique, por la invitación. Muchas gracias, CXPA.
Buenísimo, Raúl. Yo creo que has resumido muy bien, digamos, todo lo que conlleva el CX y la práctica de CX. Y creo que son puntos importantes que estaremos también tocando en otros eventos de CXPA Latam Network. Quisiera recalcar que una de las funciones principales de CXPA Latin American Network va a ser trabajar para desarrollar y entregar recursos no solo en inglés, sino construir una biblioteca de recursos fuerte, digamos, amplia en español. Es más, tenemos el primer recurso en español que quisiéramos compartirles, que es un video que explica lo que es el CX. Así que, Gabe, can you please play the video for us? I think you're in mute.
Okay, Enrique, un momento.
Thank you.
Oh.
Es exactamente la experiencia del cliente. Es un número.
Oh, I don't think I shared the sound. Enrique, could you hear the sound?
Yes.
You could?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's start this over.
Entonces, ¿qué es exactamente la experiencia del cliente? ¿Es un número? ¿Es una emoción? ¿Es servicio al cliente? En realidad, la experiencia del cliente, o CX, es más como una cadena de percepciones interconectadas que los clientes tienen con una organización en todos sus puntos de contacto y personas. La experiencia del cliente no se puede reducir a un número o métrica. Es más que un sentimiento, y no es lo mismo que el servicio al cliente. Es la disciplina práctica de analizar y anticipar las necesidades del cliente de una manera holística y creando diferentes experiencias con un diseño intencional que cumplan las promesas de la marca. Hacemos promesas a nuestros clientes a través de nuestra marca, y aquellas organizaciones que mantienen sus promesas a los clientes son organizaciones que prosperan, y una buena experiencia del cliente representa una promesa cumplida. La práctica profesional de CX la conforman profesionales capacitados que trabajan dentro de sus organizaciones para priorizar y abogar por las mejoras centradas en el cliente. Y la CXPA es la organización que ayuda y mejora la práctica profesional de experiencia del cliente en todas sus áreas de conocimiento. Entonces, ¿por qué debería importarle esto a su organización? Bueno, significa que eres más fuerte cuando tu programa CX es fuerte, no solo en unos pocos, sino en todos estos aspectos. Para saber más como CXPA y el valor que un profesional certificado en la experiencia del cliente puede traerle a tu empresa, visita cxpa.org.
Great video.
Yep, let's stop there. Okay, Enrique, did you want to bring on your other panelists for other questions? If so, I will take myself out of the stream and bring everyone back.
Okay, I don't know if we have some questions in the audience, in the comments.
I see that we have quite a few comments, so I'm not sure, Enrique, if there's something. I know that I don't think we had some questions, but I think we had some agreements. So I know that Jessica was agreeing with, looks like, Gianna's comments. So it looks like we've got some great engagement here.
Yes, I can see that. Well, I guess there are not many questions, but we are from today. We'll be open to any questions that you have, any interest that you have, and I guess we're available. The whole team is available to answer any questions.
Absolutely, and I want to bring Greg back in as well. Greg, it's so interesting that we've been here, and I to be honest, I can't understand a word of the conversation, but what I do understand and feel from the comments is the energy and excitement and the passion around CX from our wonderful Latin America leadership team, but also from the community of professionals who are clearly really interested in growing the CX community in Latin America.
I have to say that I'm only a few words ahead of you, Gabe. I noticed that when we had Raul speaking, Raul was talking about the importance and rise of technology in customer experience. And that's so true. That whether you're in Latin America or in Mexico or in the US or in Cyprus or in Ghana, as our listeners are all tuned in, that customer experience is a holistic discipline. It takes the right professionals together with the right processes and the right technology. But most of all, you're right, Gabe, it's being connected around that passion.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that we have a passion for making sure that we come up with outcomes that are good for the customer and are good for the company, and that leads to better outcomes for society. Enrique, I loved your comments when you were talking about the potential for customer experience to help raise and elevate the economies and to create new opportunities in so many different countries throughout Latin America. And I wanted to see, can we bring Gianna back on? Gianna, hi. In the middle of your comments, I noticed that you were talking about COVID and its impacts, and I'd love to hear from you and from Enrique, and maybe we can get the others back on. How has COVID impacted, and how does it impact what's going on in your area and region, and how can CX help?
Well, what I've seen in our country is that companies have noticed the importance of digital channels and how it impacts directly the customer satisfaction. And we weren't really there yet, so we didn't have many digital channels, and or customers didn't really know how to use them. And now we've seen those two things converge. Companies creating more digital channels, and then customers using those digital channels. So it creates a focus on those measurements of the service. And I think customer experience, it's like a requirement from now on. So companies can provide better service, better experiences to our customers.
Yeah. Sebastien, what have you seen over the past year?
Well, I consider that CX has empowered, little businesses to have a competitive differentiation. I think to have a strategy across all businesses, across all countries, is a plus in this era of COVID. I think the differentiation, the alignment between the CX strategy and the strategy in general, that's mean the strategy of a corporation, a medium business, or a little business is important in this era, because this is the only way to have really a way to differentiate between all the business we have, between e-commerce, between retail, between telcos. It's now about to have a different attribute that we can go for it, and to have this, to have really in for our public and for our businesses in general. For example, in Peru, I have seen really in this time that media and telcos, that are the industries I really know, that CX has empowered, has created a differentiation in using digital channels, in using really the segmentation between personas and between really the segments that are the better for us as a business. I think in this case, CXPA is going to have a better information, is going to bring together in Latin America all this knowledge, all this experience to all the members. And I think there is a big empowerment for all of us.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that the learning goes so many different directions. I think sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that the developed economies have the answers, but I think that the innovation comes from the spark and the passion. And, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And so we all can have good ideas that we bring forward, and we bring forward practices. So I'm really looking forward to that sharing that happens. Raul, what do you see happening? And I'm going to ask you to say what's happening today, and then what do you think is going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months in Mexico?
Well, we have seen many things in Mexico and Latin America region regarding the journey of the customer. The journey of the customer has changed in pretty much every way in some specific markets, like the financial market or retail or e-commerce. For instance, in Latin America, 12% of the entire people that made a transaction in the internet or an e-commerce transaction in the past year was their first transaction in e-commerce, their first transaction on the internet. So that gives you an idea that the whole world is moving to digital channels and the online experience. So, and I don't think that companies weren't prepared for this, and proof of that is the logistics area. For instance, there was an example in Mexico that it took for a company somewhere around 3 months to deliver something that in some other previous to COVID was probably 3 or 4 days, and it's taking 3 months. So companies need to be prepared for that, and companies need to listen to their customers in order to make those changes. For instance, I don't know, people would agree to pay more for a product if they purchase it from the internet, but please deliver it to me in 2 or 3 days. I don't care if I have to pay a little more. So things like that is what we are seeing in Latin America and probably all around the world. What I see in Mexico is that people is adjusting to those new the new normal, like we call it. For instance, I don't think that probably in the private arena, private companies, I don't think they are returning anymore to an office, to the physical space. So the online work, it's now here and it's gonna stay. So probably they will have something like a meeting room or something like that for a very specific issue, a very specific customer, probably. But I think that the home it's gonna be the new office, and I see that happening for the next, at least this year, in its entirety. And of course, online transactions are still to be increasing in number and in amount, which represents a huge opportunity for companies to start on this area. But again, as I mentioned, they need to listen what customers want. They need to be aware of what we customers want in order for them to fulfill those wishes and make our experience more rich, and of course that will lead us to spend more in their company. So that's what I think it's gonna happen in at least this year.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing those thoughts, Raul. And and I have to say, CXPA is experiencing the same thing that we're talking about, which is in the last year, we have made that pivot to say, how can we bring people together digitally? And how can we use the tools that are available? This LinkedIn Live, we didn't have this a year ago. And now it's one of our greatest ways to connect people together from all across the globe. I was peeking earlier today at our YouTube statistics. And since March of last year, we've had 192,000 impressions of our YouTube videos and over 2,500 hours of YouTube video that's been watched, which is sharing thought leadership from folks like yourselves. And so I love that. It's a great way for us to create space. And there was a question that came up earlier in the chat that was asking, because they're used to tuning into our LinkedIn Live, and they said, why is the conversation in Spanish? And, and so, I have to say, thank you guys for leading the community and bringing something forward in your language to make sure that we're welcoming those who don't speak English, but also being willing to come across and to have this conversation in English as well, so that we can welcome both sides. We have some exciting things that are going on, but I want to do two things next. I want to go to Enrique, because he didn't get a chance to answer what's going on and how the last year has impacted you. And then I want to come back to Sebastien and talk a little bit about CX in higher education. So Enrique, to you.
Yes, thank you, Greg. Well, I go back to the initial question that Gabe asked you about why is now the right time for CX to be promoted in Latin America, and why should CXPA focus also on Latin America? And I kind of prepared a speech. I don't know why. I thought I was going to say that, but I guess I didn't understand. No, but definitely now you brought it up at the end, and I think COVID is definitely, a reason. The pandemic has affected all regions of the world and created widespread economic contractions. So initially, governments focused on helping the population remain safe and healthy and prevent health system collapse. Especially in our countries where we have very limited health resources. That was the initial focus. Everybody has to remain indoors because hospitals are not going to be able to handle all the sick people. But since the third and the fourth quarter of 2020, the economic recovery has been also a priority. So changes that have forced us to measure and improve the customer experience, for example, are what Raul commented as well. Remote workers, it's harder to manage the customer experience remotely, and also deliver the positive emotions that our consumers want. Also, the increase in the digitalization of transactions, and the challenges in communicating, through new challenges, through new moments of truth, through new pain points. And also, everybody knows about the distancing measures implemented at the point of sale. Even if we're going to the digital channels, we're also remaining somewhat in the point of sale, and we need to assure the safety needs of the customer at that point. So I think COVID is one of the primary reasons why we need to focus on CX, and why CXPA needs to come into Latin America. And then I also think about the digital transformation, which is also happening in Latin America. The empowerment of the Latin American consumer is also happening through the advances in technology. But I think also one of the most important things that is happening in Latin America is that we are seeing a stronger entrepreneurial ecosystem. In many countries, entrepreneurship has just exploded, and we have continued to see an increase in the entrepreneurial activity, also fueled by technology around all of Latin American countries. And especially for technology ventures, borders are disappearing. And there is an increased focus on understanding customers, not only in the country where the startups are being launched, but also in other countries where they are expanding their operations. And it's a borderless world. Everybody can buy and sell to everybody in the world. So this has to be done in an efficient and effective way to assure success. So that was my take on why Latin America is important.
And I couldn't agree more that we are in a borderless world. We're in a world where Zoom and LinkedIn Live allow us to connect and learn from one another, but we're also in a borderless world in that our companies are interdependent. Many products and services are delivered through international teams, and we need to be prepared as CX professionals to make that international collaboration and experience as seamless as possible, so that when somebody travels the world or when they have something shipped to them, it's meeting their expectations and keeping them on that happy path. But, I want to combat a common misperception. That common misperception is that somehow CX, that Latin America may not be on the forefront or may not be a leader in CX. I think it's the same as every other place in the world, which is there are always leaders and laggards. And, I wanted to sort of show and have a chance to talk about higher education. And Sebastien, I think you know a little bit about what's going on with higher education and CX in colleges and universities. So I wanted to sort of give you an opportunity to share what you know about CX being taught in universities in South America.
Thanks, Greg. Yes, as a professor for more than 3 years now, I'm very pleased, really, to see how the CX programs in Latin America, in our region, have grown exponentially. I think the focus has been in the recent years on design, measurement, culture, competencies. However, there has been little progress on strategy and ROI. And I believe, from an educational point of view, that we must create a comprehensive vision that integrates all these competencies. Really, in my opinion, I envision that in the next five years, finally, we're going to have a master's degree in customer experience. We point there, we have only now higher education, but not master. I think also that it's important to advance not only in theory, but also in real content and experience and close context for LATAM. For example, for me, it's very important that teachers not only have a theoretical background, but that they are all also practitioners. I think that is the key for this higher higher education. I think this alliance with CXPA, and now that there is a network on LATAM, could empower really these programs on CX.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastien. I mean, your personal work, 3 years as a professor for a CX program, and the folks that you are making an impact with is helping to lead the edge. And we know that because of the research that we've been doing. If people want to take a peek at cxpa.org/higher ed, you can see that there are colleges and universities that are advancing CX, and it's in every region of the world. It's not something that is only being done in the UK or Canada and the US, in Peru, in Brazil, in South Africa. We're so proud to see that, I think we're on that path that you outlined, Sebastien, towards coming together and saying, let's take this discipline and raise awareness of all of the pieces that go into creating the science and the management of a great customer experience.
Absolutely, Greg, and I want to circle back because I was thinking about Enrique's comments about borders disappearing and the change that's happening and the positive future that is coming. And I want to circle back to Gianna. Gianna, I'd love to get your thoughts on what you heard from Enrique and the future of CX in Latin America.
Yeah, there's two things that I think will be key in the future of CX. One is that cultural change is a must in order for CX to grow. And one of the things I've been reading a lot, it's Customer Champions Program. I think that those will be great tools to implement CX in companies and then make them the importance. And also the predictive analytics. It's the future of CX. Like, it's not enough to do surveys and have the information from our customers. We need the intelligence from the computer so they can predict sentiments like we were discussing earlier, and the customer's opinion. So I think those 2 points will be key for the growth of CX in Latin America.
Yeah, absolutely. I realized that we showed the URL where people can get involved at the end of our What is CX video, but I just wanted to make sure for those watching, if you want to join this community, if you want to create a free account and sign up, visit cxpa.org/Latin America Network. I know we'd love to have you, and we'd love for you to join all these amazing professionals who you heard from today.
So I think before we wrap up here, I'm really proud to share with everyone that we are partnering with Corinium to help promote the CX Champions Online Mexico program. It's an online program, April 6th until the 8th. And for those that are who would like to learn more about CX and its advancement in Mexico and beyond in Latin America, a very strong program that will be delivered in Spanish. So something that's an opportunity for you to take a look at and get involved there. But definitely take a look. Gabe, do we have other live streams coming up that you wanted to make sure that people were aware of?
We do. We've got an event coming up next week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. We'll be talking with Daniel Ord, CCXP. He's one of CXPA's recognized training providers with OmniTouch International. Daniel ran, I believe it is over 60 customer-centric culture workshops with a major telecoms provider over a period of 2 years. So he has some lessons that he wants to share with the community around what it takes to execute a CX cultural transformation. So we're really excited to have that conversation next week, and we hope you all will tune in.
So I'd like to invite our leadership of the Latin American Network, CXPA Latin American Network, to each speak in their own tongue, in their own language, to say a final message to the folks that are tuning in. Please, in your own words, share whatever you'd like the community to know and to take away. Why don't we go ahead and begin with Raul?
Claro, muchas gracias, Greg, ahí atendiendo un comentario que acaba de salir aquí de nuestros amigos. Sí, la idea es que todas estas sesiones del CXPA de Latinoamérica sean en español. Igualmente, los recursos que se vayan agregando sean igualmente recursos en español, y que la comunidad convivamos en este idioma. Esa es la idea precisamente del CXPA. Muchas gracias por los comentarios, y por supuesto muchas gracias por acompañarnos, por estar aquí nuevamente. Gracias a CXPA, gracias Enrique, y a mis colaboradores, a Gianna y a Sebastien, por la oportunidad. Creo que vamos a hacer cosas ahí muy grandes, y así que acompáñenos, únanse a esta aventura que verdaderamente creo que va a rendir frutos interesantes para el crecimiento de todo CX en América Latina. Muchas gracias.
Sebastien.
Yo me uno a Raúl, y efectivamente nuestro compromiso como equipo de liderazgo es poco a poco ir sumando más recursos, más herramientas, y los foros que vayan tomando obviamente el idioma nativo del español. No, recordemos que igual van a haber ciertas versiones mixtas, bilingües, pero es nuestro compromiso desde este equipo. Agradezco a todo el mundo, espero verlos en esta comunidad, y recuerden, la verdad que la CXPA es una gran oportunidad de networking, de profundizar en conocimiento multisectorial, y sobre todo de generar un conocimiento profundo en la región y conocer a diferentes profesionales alrededor del mundo. Yo creo que eso es algo que al final nos suma a todos. Un fuerte abrazo de Perú, y espero verlos a todos pronto. Muchas gracias.
Gianna.
Bueno, gracias realmente por la oportunidad. Ha sido un placer trabajar con el equipo, y les invito a todos a unirse a la asociación y aprovechar todos los recursos que tiene, que como dicen mis compañeros, vamos a seguir subiendo más contenido en español, pero hay suficientes recursos valiosos en la página, en la plataforma, que pueden ir aprovechando. Así que gracias, y a la orden desde República Dominicana. Placer.
And before I turn it over to Enrique, Gabe, if I could get you to put up the landing page again for the online community. I want to remind everyone that you can create an account and stay connected with these great leaders at cxpa.org/Latin America Network. Everyone who signs up for the network will also receive special information on a special join opportunity, and to be identified as one of the original founders of the Latin American Network. So this is an opportunity for you to come along and help build something and make a difference, not only for yourself and for your company, but also for the entire Latin America community. And this wouldn't have been possible without the support. And first, I'll acknowledge Gabe and his wife, Mindy, who are supporting us from Archbold, Ohio. Mindy, thank you for your assistance, special assistance today. But it most of all would not have been possible without the visionary leadership and dedicated follow-up of Enrique. And so, Enrique, thank you for being the chair of this group, and we'll let you finish this LinkedIn Live broadcast with your message back to the community and the viewers.
Well, thank you, Greg. Voy a hablar en español, entonces. Muchas gracias al CXPA. Creo que es un honor que nos consideren para poder hacer esto y hacer llegar esto a Latinoamérica. Gracias al equipo que con su interés y la experiencia que traen, yo sé que vamos a hacer cosas muy grandes en Latinoamérica. Y pues les insto también a que se unan al network, ¿verdad? A través del link que ven en la pantalla. Y que nos unamos como Latinoamérica a demostrar que nosotros podemos ser mejor que cualquier otra región del mundo, que nosotros podemos liderar y pues les insto a que se unan, como no sé si todos entendieron lo que dijo Greg, pero al unirse ustedes van a recibir comunicación especial para un beneficio para poderse unir ahorita en esta fase inicial del Latin America Network. Así que aprovechen porque es un gran recurso para todos. Y muchas gracias por su atención.